So for this project, I'm going to be taking the Bernat Maker Home Decor yarn. It's a weight 5 bulky, and it is also a jersey knit kind of material, which I think is really cool. I've never made a sweater out of this material before, but I've already finished one of the sleeves, and it's just a really heavyweight, warm, really nice. I love how it works up. So to get started with this project, I'm going to be making the sleeve. I already made one, so I'm just going to go ahead and make the other one. I'm using a 6.5 millimeter hook for this project. So to get started, we're going to be starting on the ribbing for the sleeve. So take your yarn and chain a total of 13. So for the first row, this is going to count as the right side row, and then the other side when we go back along will be the wrong side row. So when I leave the written pattern below, you'll understand what right side and wrong side means. So I'm just going to place one single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And then I'm going to be placing one single crochet in each chain to the end of this chain. Sorry, I just realized it was kind of dark. So anyway, I have placed one single crochet in each chain to the end of the row. For the second row, I'm going to chain one and turn my work over. And now to create the ribbing, we're going to be working in the back loops only. So we're going to be placing one single crochet in each chain to the end of the row, working in the back loops only. So I'm just going to start in that very first chain. So normally we would go through that entire chain right there, but since we're creating the ribbing and we're working through the back loops, we're only going to be placing our hook through the back side of that chain. Placing a single crochet and continuing that in the working only in the back loops of each chain until you reach the end of the row. So once you reach the end of the row, for the next row and all of the remaining rows, you're just going to chain one, turn over your work, and continue working in only the back rows. So you're going to want to repeat this until it's long enough to wrap around your wrist. For me, my size small, I believe that's going to be 13 to 14 rows, but just add and subtract depending on what size you need. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do about 14 rows and I'll come back once I've finished. So now I'm finished with the rows for my sleeve, and actually I think I made a mistake. When I was counting out the rows I did on my first sleeve, I was counting just the ridges, so I said do 14 rows. I actually did 27 rows, so this is gonna be for a size small. And if you need to make a larger cuff size, just make sure you end on a right side row. So this is the right side, and why it's the right side is because we're going to begin crocheting upwards, and you want the knot from the very beginning of your row to kind of work into the work. So you don't want it to be on your actual cuff, because then it's just going to not look very nice and you're gonna have to weave it in later. So it's easier to just end it on the right side. And yeah, so I did 27 rows. So now I'm just gonna get started. You're not gonna cut and tie, we're just gonna work directly into the length of the sleeve. So all I'm doing now is I'm just going to chain one, and then I'm gonna start working on this side. So all I did was I'm going to place 33 stitches along this row right here, and there's not definitive chains, but I'm just going to be placing kind of close together in order to fit 33 stitches. So if you reach the end and you're not at 33, then undo it and cram some more rows in there, because you want your sleeve to kind of branch off. So if you don't have enough chains, it's going to cinch in and not be a bulky sleeve. And I will leave a written pattern down below if you're doing a larger size, and the amount of stitches I recommend for that size, for the larger sizes. So once you have the 33 chains and the side of your ribbing row, we're gonna get started on the, basically the pattern for this sleeve is gonna be the pattern for the majority of the sweater. For the next round, I'm going to chain 3. This counts as a double crochet. This chain is connected to the chain 3, so I'm going to ignore that. In the very next chain of the row, I'm going to be placing 1 single crochet. Then in the very next row, I'm going to be placing a double crochet. I'm going to wrap the yarn around the hook, go through that very next chain, yarn over, pull through the chain, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. It's a double crochet. Then I'm going to go back to a single crochet. So I'm just alternating between placing 1 single crochet, then placing 1 double crochet. So I'm just going to go to the end of the row, continuing this pattern. So for the next row, we are going to increase. So we ended on a chain 3, but we are going to be increasing. So I'm going to chain an additional 3, flip over my work, and in that very first chain that's connected to the chain 3, I'm going to place my hook through that and place 1 single crochet. And then now I can continue the pattern. So the very next chain, you can kind of tell the short chains underneath are single crochets, so those are going to get double crochets through them. The larger chains are going to get single crochets. So you're alternating between placing double and single crochets, and you're going to place them in the corresponding chains beneath. So a double crochet beneath gets a single crochet on top, and a single crochet beneath gets a double crochet on top. So I'm just going to continue this pattern, alternating between single and double crochet, and I will show you once I get to the very last chain, because we are also going to increase in the very last chain of this row as well. So I continued my way all the way down. I placed my last chain in the last row, which happened to be a single crochet. And then we are going to increase. So since I just placed 1 single crochet in the last chain, I'm going to be placing also a double crochet through that last chain. So I'm continuing with the alternating pattern in my increases as well. So now that I'm going to be not increasing in my next row, since I just placed a chain 3 and I'm not increasing, I'm just going to chain 1. So that's going to act as the 1 single crochet on top of the double crochet. Flip over my work, prepare for a double crochet, and since the very next chain, or the very first chain in the row, is a single crochet beneath it, I'm going to be placing a double crochet. So I'm just going to alternate between double crochet and single crochet for this next row without increasing. So I've finished with that row as well. Anyway, so I ended on a single crochet. So now I am going to be increasing on this next round as well, on this next row. To increase, since the chain beneath it is a single crochet, I'm just going to chain 1. And then I'm going to prepare for a double crochet, go through that very same chain that my chain 1 is coming out of, placing a double crochet. Then I can continue with my working pattern, a single crochet in the very next chain, and a double crochet in the chain after. So you're going to continue this to the end of the row, increasing on the very last chain as well. So now that I finished with the row of increases, I'm just going to, since I ended on a single crochet, my last chain has a double crochet and a single crochet in it for the increase. So now I'm just, since it's ended on a single crochet, I'm going to chain 3, flip over my work, so now I'm on the wrong side of the pattern, and I'm going to do a row without any increases. And for the next 4 rows, I'm going to alternate. The wrong side of the rows will get no increase and the right side will get an increase. So since this row is going to have no increases, when I flip over, the row after will be a row of increase. 1 increase in the very first chain, 1 increase in the very last chain. And then when I flip over again, it'll be a row of no increase. Flip over, and the 4th row will be a row of increases. So I'm just repeating the last 2 rows basically then for the next 4 rows. So this will be a row without any increases, just working that same pattern, alternating single crochets and double crochets. Then the very next row will be increased. And also the written pattern will be listed in the description box if you want to take a closer look at it. So now I have just finished with my second row of increases. So I had my first row of increases, the row on the wrong side that had no increases, and then the second row of increases. So now all I'm going to do is so I ended on a double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, flip over my work, continue with alternating just like we have been. I'm going to be doing 4 rows, and all of these 4 rows will have no increases. So you're just placing either one single crochet or 1 double crochet per chain. So no increases for the next 4 rows. So now that I have finished the 4 rows with no increases, we're going to get started on a ribbing pattern. So this is going to go along your elbow area. It just adds like a nice detail. So all I'm going to do to begin my first row of the cutout pattern, I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to be increasing, so I'm going to place my first half double crochet in the chain that's attached to the chain 2. So for a half double crochet, you're going to wrap the yarn around the hook, go through that first chain, yarn over, pull through the first one. You'll have 3 left on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 of those. That's a half double crochet. So you're just going to be placing 1 half double crochet in each chain, going along this entire row. On the very last chain of this row, you're going to place 2 half double crochet through that same chain to increase. So now that I've finished that row, I've increased on that very last chain. So now I'm just going to chain 2 to start on the next row, flip over my work, and let's see, you're going to be skipping that very first chain that's connected to the chain 2. Prepare for a half double crochet. Just go under this entire row. So you're placing your hook into that space. And then you're going to place a half double crochet, and then continue to place 1 half double crochet per chain for this entire row. And then you are going to do this for a total of 9 rows. So this counts as one of the 9. So once you finish this row, do 8 more rows without any increases, just placing 1 half double crochet in each chain. And I will come back once I finish with the 9 rows. So now once you've finished through the 7th through the 10th rows, the 11th row, you are going to increase. So chain 2, and then place your first half double crochet in this very first chain. Normally we've been skipping that because it's connected to the chain 2. So we're going to increase on the 11th row, and then for the 12th and 13th rows, for the next 2 rows, you are going to do no increase. So I'm just going to finish the next 3 rows. Oh, and I forgot to say you increase in the first chain and in the very last chain of the 11th row. So now once you're finished through the 12th and 13th rows, we're going to go back into doing the alternating single crochet and double crochet pattern that we did beneath the elbow cutout. So to get started with that, I'm just going to chain 3, flip over my work, and then place a single crochet in that very first chain, double crochet in the chain after, and just continue this pattern all the way down the row. So once you reach the end of the row, you've ended on a double crochet, or if you ended up on a single crochet, you're just going to do the opposite. So I'm just going to chain 1 to begin the next row, and then continue alternating the double crochet and single crochet pattern. So you're just going to continue this for, depends how long and baggy you want your sleeves to be. Probably going to do another 10 to 15 rows of this. But just stop once you reach the desired bagginess, once it reaches underneath your armpit. So once you're finished with both of the sleeves, we're going to get started on the body portion. So for the body portion, we're going to be making a ribbing pattern, the same exact one that we did for the sleeve, except we're going to make it longer to fit around your waist when it's slightly stretched. For my size small, that is 43 rows, but feel free to do more rows for larger sizes. I will leave a pattern in the description below. So once you have your rows for the ribbing pattern, you're just going to chain 1, continue, and flip it over to the right side. So you do also want to have an odd number of rows so that the original chain knot is at the top, and you are going to work it into the top pattern. So we're going to be continuing the same pattern that we did for the sleeves. I'm just going to chain 2 more, so I will have a total of a chain 3. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. For this very first row, we are just going to be doing single crochets, placing single crochets along the top row. So for my size small, I'm going to want to fit a total of 60 to 63 chains along the top. So we are going to kind of be jamming them all together. You do want the top to not scrunch up. You want it to have more chains than the width of the band. So make sure you have a chain 1, and then just start randomly placing your single crochets along the top. Just make sure you have about 60 to 63. If you're doing a larger size, obviously you would want a little bit more. I will try to write out a pattern. So yeah, I'm just going to be placing my single crochets, and I will come back once I've finished. So I have put a total of 63 single crochets along my top row, and I forgot to mention the front and the back portion of the sweater are the exact same pattern, so it doesn't matter if, okay, so this is going to be the front, but it doesn't matter, you're going to be doing 2 of these, the same pattern for both sides. So I am going to be doing the same alternating pattern between double crochet and single crochet. So to get started on the first row, I'm going to chain 3, flip over my work, skip this chain, this is connected to the chain 3, and that first chain I am going to be placing a single crochet, in the next chain a double crochet, and so on. So basically you're going to just be repeating this until you get the length that you want that reaches up to your bust. If you want that to be a long sweater or a crop top, it doesn't matter. I will let you know how many chains that ends up being for me, but feel free to repeat this row if you want a longer, baggier sweater. So just keep that in mind. I will come back and let you know how many rows I have done for my size. So I've made my way to the end of the first row just to be a little bit more thorough with the pattern. I've ended on a double crochet, so when I chain to flip over, you're going to do the opposite of whatever chain you land on. So if you land on a double crochet, then you're going to chain 1. If you land on a single crochet, you're going to chain 3. So I chain 1. This is acting as a single crochet on top of the double crochet. Flip over your work, and then the very next chain below will be a single crochet. So you're going to be placing a double crochet in that. So you're just going to be making sure that you're alternating single crochet and double crochet corresponding to the chain that is beneath it. So yeah, so I'm just going to be repeating this over and over again. I will come back once I'm finished with the length. We are going to be doing armhole cutouts, so the length is going to fit just below your armpit, because we are going to be doing a cutout for the shoulders and the sleeves. So anyway, I'll come back and let you know how many chains that is for me. So now I've finished. I've made a total of 19 rows. And now I'm going to make indents for the arms to go. So now I've placed 1 slip stitch in each of the first 7 chains. Then on the chain that I'm currently working out of right now, I'm just going to chain 1, go right back through that same chain and place a single crochet. So now that I have that, the very next row below it is a single crochet. So I'm going to be placing a double crochet. So basically you're just going to want to continue the pattern matching with the bottom row. Now I'm placing a single crochet and a double crochet in the next chain. So I'm just going to go along this row with that same pattern, and now I'm going to continue this pattern, and I'm going to be stopping 7 chains from the end. So I'm just going to stop on the 7th chain from the end and then continue working. I'm not going to be working in that last 7 chains. I'm just going to, let's see, this is a double crochet. So I'm going to have placed a single crochet in this chain, and I will chain 3 and then continue the next row, stopping at this chain here. So we're just going to be working a few chains within this row that we create. We're going to be excluding the last and the first 7 chains for the next 5 rows. So I'm just going to be continuing this for 5 rows. And once I have finished with 5 rows, we'll come back and show you the shoulder pattern. So now I have finished with 5 rows. I'm just continuing along just this portion of the front of the sweater. So now all we're going to do is make the shoulder side panels. So in order to measure this, this is just what's going to wrap up over your neck going across to your shoulders. So I'm just going to fold my work in half and then fold it in half again, and that's roughly where the length that I want my shoulder band to be. So I'm just gonna pull up these chains right here just to mark them. If you want to mark with a chain marker, feel free, but you're gonna want to do it on both sides. So yep, so this is going to be the length of my shoulder band. So I'm just gonna be continuing the same pattern for this portion as well. So I'm going to start by chaining 3 and then just continuing the pattern that is beneath it, and then I'm going to stop at the chain that we have marked. So then once I've reached the chain that I have marked, I'm just going to continue upward from here. So I'm going to flip over the work and continue the pattern. You're gonna do this for about, let's see, so I did about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. So about 7 to 8 rows, and then you're going to cut and tie and repeat it on the other side as well. So I already made my other half of the sweater because I kind of made up the pattern as I was going. So yeah, I'm just going to continue that for about 7 to 8 rows, cut and tie on the other side, do the same, and then I will show you how I connect all of the pieces together. So now I have finished both body pieces and I have my 2 arm pieces. I'm just gonna start attaching them together. Basically, you can either sew them together with a needle and thread, or you can just kind of like interweave them together with your crochet needle. I am taking thread. This is a different thread because, surprise, surprise, I ran out of yarn. One day I will buy enough yarn to complete a project, but today is not one of those days. So I did use, how many did I use? I used 4 balls of yarn. I used 4 complete balls of yarn. It basically was it was enough to finish the project, but I would have liked a little bit more to do the lining and do a collar. So just keep that in mind. They were about 300 yards each, so this is a pretty big project. I did want my sweater to be more baggy, so of course you could have made the sweater longer. I only did 19 rows, but it could be as long as you would like, but just keep that in mind. My size small used 4 balls of yarn and I needed more, so you will need at least 5 balls of yarn to finish this project, depending also on how long you want your sweater to be. It's completely up to you. I personally just like midriff size sweaters on myself, but I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, so just keep that in mind. This pattern is completely changeable. I do have people that ask me to make baggier, longer sweaters, but this is basically the same pattern you would use. You would just make it longer. I did not want a long sweater, so yeah, anyway, all I'm gonna do to connect these together is basically sew them. I'm going to line them up. Start at the bottom. There is a kind of like cutout for the sleeve to go. So basically when I reach this portion, I will just take my sleeve and I'm going to connect the length of the sleeve together last. So I will just take the sleeve and line it up to the corner and kind of pull this straight, and then just continue along the other side. So to get started on connecting them together, I will start by connecting the shoulder portion together, stop there. Then I will connect it from the very bottom, make my way up, and then do the sleeve as I just mentioned. Once the sleeve is connected to the body, I will go along the length and connect the length together. So if you're completely new at crocheting and want to see how I do this, I'm just basically sewing with the yarn. I'm going to get started with a double knot and then create slip stitches, placing my hook through the same chain I just placed it through, yarn over. So now I have my working yarn. I'm just going to go along the top 2 chains on both sides, yarn over, yarn over. So I'm doing slip stitches. Make sure that this slip stitch is a little bit on the looser side. You don't want your side to shrink together. You want it to have a little bit of a stretch to it. But yeah, so this is all I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to be connecting all of the pieces together. Once I have finished with that, I will show you what I'm doing to finish off the neck. You could leave the neck like that if you wanted to, but it looks a little unfinished, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a row of single crochets along the neckline. I'll show you how I do that, but yeah, so all I'm going to be doing is connecting all of this together. And I just realized I need to connect the shoulders first, so I'm just gonna finish this real quick and I will be back once I am done. So now I'm finished connecting all of my pieces together. I'm just going to be kind of tightening up the neck hole. So all I'm going to be doing is attaching my yarn the same way that I normally do, and I'm just going to be doing a row of single crochet all the way around. So I actually ended up doing multiple rows around the collar just to close it up a little bit more. I just worked in a spiral and I ended up doing 5 or 6 more rows, but that's all I did and that's all you have to do for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video.